Life's unfair. Think about it. The good suffer for the bad, the rich take advantage of the poor, people prejudge you. I could go on. For almost 2 decades, I witnessed my mother abusing my dad. She humiliated him in front of our friends and family, even in front of strangers. She didn't care one bit. Her trademark was the one finger poke to the forehead, and the look on her face when she did it. At times, I cringed for my dad. Our family and friends saw my dad as a wimp, the man without balls, and he knew it. He knew what everyone thought of him. He was meant to be the leader of the pack, the protector, the man who validates all of the plans in our household. But he wasn't. My mother told my dad that he wasn't man enough for her. She said he was too soft, and he needed to take charge. She belittled him in public. It got worse every day. I didn't even ask my dad for permission to do anything. I went to Mum instead, because whatever his answer was, Mum would overrule it anyway. I honestly think she did that purposefully to assume authority over him. Like I said, my mother took away all of my dad's pride, his manhood. His confidence was diminished. I didn't see him as the man of the house anymore. He was like a man's frame. I was more of a man in the house. I could speak up for my rights. I challenged my mother if I didn't agree with something. My mother was also a jealous person. Very jealous. I witnessed her using a slipper to slap my dad just because he was having a friendly chat with a parent at my school disco. She accused him of flirting with her. She later apologized for overreacting, but the damage had already been done. One evening, my mother was in the kitchen cooking, and she had a disagreement with my dad. She used the rolling pin to hit my dad. He tried to block it, and it fractured his forearm. I saw my dad as a waste man, but all that is about to change. My dad took me to a restaurant for a meal. You know, father-son time. We saw my mother's friend's husband and his friends. He never liked my dad. He thought my dad was a silly excuse for a man. He started ridiculing my dad in front of his friends, but my dad was very calm. He snapped when he called my mother a bitch. My dad walked straight over to him and punched him in the face. He landed on top of the table and broke it into pieces. One of his friends ran over to defend him, and my dad put that friend in a chokehold until he turned blue, like Papa Smurf. Later that night, I heard shouting coming from my parents' room. The next morning, I was expecting to see my dad with bruises and scratches, a black eye or at least a broken nose. But this time, my mum was the one with all the bruises. Like I said, he was a changed man. One evening, my mother came down the stairs and shouted, "Bye." She usually did that without saying where she was going, which I thought was disrespectful. For the first time ever, my dad asked where she was going. My mum responded with the trademark poke to the forehead and that look on her face. "Why? I never had to tell you where I was going before. So you finally decided to grow some balls now?" I turned away in disgust. I have no idea how my mum got on the floor, but I heard a loud slap. I turned around and saw her on the floor, clutching her face, with my dad standing over her. My dad shouted at me, "Go to your room right now." I didn't understand. After almost 2 decades of being abused, humiliated, ridiculed, and walked on, what had gotten into him? I was in shock. It's like something snapped in him. It's like he became a monster overnight. I was afraid of what he might do to Mom. He became unpredictable. While I was in my room, I heard my mother screaming in horror, like she was scared for her life. I was so scared of what he might do to her. I ran out of my room, just in time to grab my dad's hand just before he slapped my mother again. My mum got up and ran up the stairs. A few hours later, I saw my dad standing in the living room, staring through the window. I asked him why. He said, "Son, I know I let you down by my actions, but for 17 years, your mother has taken away my manhood. My confidence, my pride was crushed. She disrespected me in front of everyone and anyone. I wasn't allowed to meet up with my friends, and if I did go against her permission, she hit me with anything she could get her hands on. It's not that I couldn't hit her back, but it wasn't in my character to hit a woman. While she met with her friends whenever she liked, returned home whenever she liked, talked to me however she liked. Because of her, my friends made fun of me. For years, I suffered in silence. Mentally, I was a wreck. All I ever wanted was to be happy, to be respected, to be appreciated, to have a loving relationship. And I did not see that with your mother. 10 years ago, I tried to leave, but she warned me that if I left, she would make sure that I didn't get to see you grow up, and she would make life difficult for me. But now, you're old enough to make your own decisions, so that doesn't matter anymore. Son, I don't condone any sort of violence against a man or woman, but if you hit someone, you should be prepared to take a hit back. I spent 17 brutal years with her. She broke my fingers, my nose, even spat on me. Son, I will be leaving in the morning. You're free to come live with me or stay with your mother. Don't follow my example. Don't abuse a woman, and don't allow anyone to abuse you. If there's a confrontation, walk away before it gets physical. One thing my father said that I won't forget: there's a difference between demanding respect and commanding respect. If you have to demand for someone to respect you, don't waste your time with that person. But if someone respects you by your actions and personality without being forced, that's true respect. You command it naturally. To our surprise, my mother was listening in to our conversation. She came downstairs crying. She first thanked my dad for standing up for her honor in the restaurant. Then she begged him for forgiveness. It turned out she had some deep-rooted past. She saw her dad dish out all types of abuse to her mother, and was determined not to let the same thing happen to her. It blinded her from the fact that not every man is like that. The realization that Daddy wasn't like that, she begged him to give the relationship another chance. I knew it was genuine because I'd never seen my mother beg my dad for anything, and my dad knew it too. She saw him in a very different light. Suddenly, she was respectful, loving, and honorable. 30 years later, they're happier than ever. Violence and domestic abuse should never be tolerated. No one should remain in an abusive relationship. It's vital to prioritize your safety and well-being. Seek help and support from friends, family, or professionals who can guide you towards a life free from harm. Remember, you deserve respect, love, and a life without fear. Leaving an abusive relationship is an act of courage and self-love. Can you relate? Please subscribe to this channel, like, and share this story. Also, don't forget to press the notification bell and stay up to date. It's free to subscribe.